Hi friends, today I have a bit of a different video for you today than what you're used to. As you'll notice, I am playing an entirely different game than normal. This game is called Xenoblade Chronicles X, and rumor has it, it was released on a nearly extinct console called the Wii U. Now the cool thing about making guides for this game is that I get to spend far more time talking about the build than actually showing it off. I will say that this isn't going to be a super good tutorial to explain everything going on and implies you have a minor understanding about the game and are into post-game. And it also assumes that you understand overdrive at least a little bit, but if you follow my build you don't really need to understand it that much. Now the build in this video relies on using dual guns as your main source of damage with the knife as a supporting weapon. A long time ago when this game came out, there was a YouTuber who even said dual guns were better than longsword. Now this is not true at all, but they are still a very fun weapon type that can dispatch of basically every enemy in the game very quickly, with most being in just one art. This is by no means the most optimal build in X, but the interesting part about X post-game is trying to make a variety of builds work since optimal builds basically trivialize everything. So as another disclaimer about a lot of X builds, the ones I will show off are going to be the most or almost the most optimal for the type of weapons I am using. Getting the gear with the specific traits I have will take a lot of grinding, and it is by no means necessary to have all the same things I do. You can deal with most enemies just fine with less damage and such. As far as where to get all the gear I use, I'll link a spreadsheet in the description just because there's multiple enemies that will drop all of this stuff, and some may be easier than others to kill. And there's really just a lot of gear. So, for my ground beer, I have Ultra Nebulon Dyads 2. The important thing to remember about these guns is that you want both the potential traits, the potential up, and the potential boost. This is very important because potential is going to be the main source of our damage in this build, so having a high potential stat is going to give us the most damage possible, and overdrive count up is a great third trait to have to ensure you don't have to activate overdrive to get to max as many times. And our melee attack and range attack doesn't really matter because TP arts, which is going to be our main source of damage, their damage calculation is based off potential, so ranged attack does not actually matter even though we're using a dual guns build. So, secondly, our knife, which is our other supporting weapon essentially here. We want potential up as a trait, which we can get on it, and appendage crusher as a trait as well. Now, it is worth noting that double potential dual guns and the potential up and appendage crusher knife are both really rare as is, so getting the additional third trait, which is also really nice to have, is going to take you a very, very significant amount of time, far longer than anything you're probably used to. So I would recommend just trying to get a good set of traits here. We typically want 5 appendage crushers, and getting it on the knife here gives us more room to put other traits we might want on it. And you by no means need these to like kill things, but it just makes the fights a lot faster and smoother. And you're going to have 2 night visions to reliably hit the Telethia, so that's going to be 2 of our other appendage slots. 5 appendage crushers is going to be the maximum you need to soften the enemy appendages of all the main super bosses in this game. Some you might have exposed appendages where you only need like 1 or 2 to get it to the maximum softness tier, but for the enemies we're going to be fighting, like Telethia, that is not going to be the case. So for my headgear, it's going to be a double potential lightwear hat, whatever this is, and it also has potential boost as the additional trait I put on it. Like I said, we're just trying to boost potential as much as possible. The third trait does not matter at all. The important thing is to just have both potential stats on there if you can get it. Regional Breaker is actually an item from a shop. It's actually the easiest one to get, and this is because the items from the shop are the only thing that have potential up as an effect on them, so you cannot get potential up from the field for a vest gear without buying it from the shop, and that is why we use that in this case. The other 2 traits do not matter at all. And I also have potential up as the augment on it. You can see where this is kind of going. Now for our arm wear, the left arm, we need max TP up and overdrive count up as traits on the arm from the Ophian Technologies, the Ys here. So max TP up is so we have 9,000 TP total. We need that to ensure that we don't have any TP issues when we start the battle, since we want to activate overdrive twice to hit max. Overdrive count up, what that does is essentially when you activate overdrive, it'll automatically add count to it. With my setup I currently have, I automatically get like 50 count or so I only have to activate it twice to hit max count, which is very nice. And just having both of these things is going to make our life a lot easier and give us not many worries. So Ultra Infinite Ward R is the next one. Again, I have overdrive count up on it. That's really the only important trait on this one. Don't really have to worry about getting anything else on it. Back attack up is nice. Melee attack up does not matter at all. If you're behind enemies, back attack up will give you a nice little additive damage bonus there, but you're probably not going to be behind enemies, so it's not really that important. And potential up is the extra trait. So for the boots here, or shoes, or leg wear, whatever it is, we want max TP up. That's really the only thing we want. Nothing else is really that important. The other two traits don't really matter, but evasion can be nice, TP rebound can be nice, potential up as the trait on it. And that's going to cover it for our gear there. Skull gear doesn't matter. I don't know why I clicked on that. Arts. So, for arts, these two don't really matter for the build I'm showing off. Black Butterfly is useful to lower ether resistance on certain enemies, but they're not really required for the build I'm showing off since most bosses are going to resist it, or tyrants. 0-0 is just another ranged art, and this can increase your overdrive count if you don't have like overdrive count up. It'll increase it by 20. That's really nice, assuming you use it after a blue or green art anyway. But this is not going to be the main source of damage. 0-0 is not going to be doing damage. Executioner is going to be our main damage art here. It's our TP art. It's going to do a lot of damage in ranged combos, so we need to make sure we activate it after using another dual gun art. And it's just overall going to absolutely destroy the enemies we're fighting in this video. Ghostwalker. This is one of the infamous arts in X. It basically grants guaranteed evasion against a set number of attacks. And it is the main form of survivability we have on this build because we don't really care about defense in this game. Energy Source is going to boost our potential just as a buff, and this is one of the knife stats. It also gives us extra TP when we use it, so we don't actually... It'll increase our TP by the exact same amount it consumes, so it's actually kind of funny. But it's still really nice for the potential boost. It's just a nice buff to have to put on ourselves because of that. Full specs, this is going to give us even more potential and boost our ranged attack. I don't think ranged attack has any effect on this, but it's still this is a nice aura to have on us, and that's going to give us more potential, and potential is really good, as I've already said. Primer, critical power. Critical damage is good. This is basically the equivalent to that in Xenoblade 2. This will increase the damage of our critical hits, and we want to do that so our damage is even more increased. Combat Limbo, you don't really need this against enemies that you destroy really quickly, but against a certain drawn-out fight that I will show off in this video, this is an important art to have, to just freeze all of our buffs on ourselves so we don't have to refresh them except for Ghostwalker when that runs out from enemy attacks. So that's really an important ability to keep on here. And you can replace the last two arts with whatever if you need them. Like, if you don't want to have the Black Butterfly or 0-0, you can probably easily replace them. So we're Mastermind class for the extra potential bonus it gives us. This only gives us 4 skill slots as opposed to 5, but it doesn't really matter. So what you're going to want here, Secondary Accelerator, this is going to reduce our secondary cooldown so we get our arts up as fast as possible. Core Crusher is the best independent multiplier in the game. So for all of our ether attacks, it's going to boost our damage by 150%. As you see, the dyads are ether guns. That's really nice. And the knife, even though it's not an ether knife, we're not really using it for attacks outside of Black Butterfly, which is an ether attack. Inner Search boosts our potential. We like potential. And Combo Gunner, this boosts our range damage by 125% when we're triggering a ranged combo. So basically when we use a ranged dart into a ranged dart, we'll get more damage. And against certain enemies, you're going to want to replace this with another ability on here, Trigger Happy. This is what I use against Grata. We will fight him later. This is going to reduce our art cooldown by 50% in ranged combos, so we'll get our arts up even faster against the enemy with higher HP. So that's going to cover it for the skills. Like I already said, class is Mastermind. Make sure you have all the skills by maxing all the classes. That's important to do. Soul voices don't matter at all because we're not going to be using a party because party members are not very useful offline. So I'm going to show you guys how to fight Telethia with this build, which is the strongest enemy in the game by level. So the important thing to remember in this fight is that you're going to need 2 night vision gems to hit him because he has really high agility. He's probably the only enemy in the game where 2 is required. I will say though that if you do not have Nullify Ether Reflect, then you have a chance of instantly dying half the time, but otherwise you can't one-shot him, so I just risk it anyway and just try to do the flashy kill. General fight here is activate Overdrive twice to get to max count instantly. Use your 2 knife buffs. We'll have to use Ghostwalker fast so he doesn't one-shot you. Use your 2 knife buffs, then go into Primer, and then use Executioner. And this is going to just absolutely destroy him with our build setup. Make sure you lock onto an appendage and all that, and he'll just get destroyed. You can kind of see just how crazy the X combat system can get here. It can be very satisfying to pull up, but you can absolutely just destroy some enemies incredibly fast. So here's Farsus, who's another strong enemy. I think he has a higher ether resistance stat, because you won't be able to do as much damage to him, I've noticed, with your Executioner. But you can still kill him in 2 arts here, which is nearly as fast, and he's one of the other Ultra Fauna enemies in this game. Typically, it's just going to be the same general strategy, though. Use all your abilities in the right order, and just make sure you use Primer before using Executioner. I think before the second Executioner, I actually used Ghostwalker, just to make sure I don't die. And I also replaced one of the Night Visions on this build with a Ultra Fauna Slayer, just to give me another 50% additive damage. And we make short work of him, too. So the last enemy I wanted to show you guys is Grata, the Headless Emperor. Now Grata is a little bit different in that he's not inherently harder than something like Talithia, but he has 100 million HP, which is by far the most in the game. So in this fight, we're going to be able to see a fight that lasts a little bit longer and how you kind of want to approach it here as far as a DPS standpoint. So I replaced the Ultra Fauna Slayer with an Arts Gain TP just to make my TP consumption not super bad and I'll be able to do stuff. And I'm also going to be using Combat Limbo in this fight just to make sure my buffs stay on me and I don't have to refresh them. So typically here we're going to want to use either Ghostwalker or Primer into Executioner every time we can to just maximize our damage output on him. And we want to be making sure we keep track of his attack patterns and knowing when to use Ghostwalker so we don't end up dying to his multi-hit attacks and that go through our duration of decoy pretty fast. So all in all, even though he has 100 million HP, he's still not too hard as long as we just keep smart use for Executioner in mind here. And once again, as with all the fights, you instantly get to max count with my build after activating Overdrive twice, which is really helpful in maintaining it, since to maintain Overdrive, you need to know how to use your green and blue arts to maximize the duration of it. Starting with 0 count does make it a lot harder to maintain, but it is possible if you look up an Overdrive guide. I don't know if a really good one exists, so maybe I should make one soon. But overall, you can kind of see here just how to take down Gravis. Just make sure you always keep your Ghostwalker up, make sure you're using a ranged attack into Executioner, and then you just take him out. Not too difficult and a pretty fun fight. So there isn't really a ton to show off as far as remaining fights. I basically showed the 3 most interesting enemy of the games. Haven't ever really done an X guide before, so hopefully I explained everything well and you kind of understand how I'm doing so much damage. It's a mix of Overdrive, Appendage Crushers, Core Crusher, Potential, and smart use of buffs and aura. Gotta love how the video is 75% explanation and 25% fights. Dual guns are really fun to use, and this is definitely one of my favorite builds in the game, and I hope you guys will be able to try something to take advantage of this. If you have any questions, please be sure to ask me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, then please subscribe for additional content on this game as well as other games in the series. I've got lots of exciting things coming up, including an X playthrough which starts tomorrow on my Twitch at 11 Central. I'll be uploading it to YouTube periodically after streaming as well. Hopefully going to explain the game and be entertaining, so please be sure to tune in. Please be also sure to subscribe, as I said, because it helps me out a lot with those YouTube algorithms, and also follow me on Twitter and Twitch to make me feel good about myself. With all that being said, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you want more content like this in the future, and have a great day.